What's up YouTube? Okay, so today we're going to talk about why I changed from the Canon system over to the Sony system. Okay, so first of all, I want to say that I've been a happy Canon shooter for over 10 years now. I had the original 5D, and then I moved to the 5D Mark II, and then I moved over to the 5D Mark III. And I was really happy with all them cameras. So let me take you back to about a year ago when I was shooting on my Canon 5D Mark III. And I decided I probably should think about upgrading because technology moves on. Even though the 5D, for what I was doing a great job. So I was mainly shooting stills. So the Canon 5D Mark III, even though it does shoot video, it's really good at shooting the stills. But technology moves on. So I decided I was going to upgrade from the Mark III. And I was starting to shoot a lot more video. So the video capabilities of the cameras I use was becoming more and more important. So I decided to, because I was already in deep with Canon, so I'd invested a lot of money buying all of the Canon mount lenses and all that. It made sense that I looked at the Canon 5D Mark IV. So let's have a little look at the specs. So with the 5D Mark IV, we was looking at a 30.4 megapixel camera. With the Mark III was a 22 megapixel. Now, 22 megapixels was fine, so for what I was shooting, weddings and event photography. So I didn't need, in my eyes, I didn't need that extra megapixels. So then the Mark IV shoots 7 frames per second, the Mark III shoots 6. So it's only an extra frame. It's only an extra frame per second. That's not really groundbreaking. Not that I need to shoot lots of frames per second, but still, it wasn't a massive gain for me. So then we come on to video. The Mark IV shoots 4K at 30 frames per second. The Mark III doesn't shoot 4K. So when we look at 1080p, the Mark IV was shooting at 60 frames, up to 60 frames per second. The Mark III was 30 frames per second. So I liked that the Mark IV shot at 1080p at 60 frames per second, because how I like to shoot my videos on the wedding days, I like to shoot at 50, 60 frames per second and then slow it down to 25. Okay, that gives us a nice slow motion for the wedding video. So I was really interested into that in that feature. The Mark IV also shoots 120 frames per second, but only at 720. I'm not sure why only at 720. That's not usable for me. I'm not even sure anybody shoots at 720 nowadays. That wasn't really a usable feature, even though I would like to shoot it at 120 frames per second, not at 720. I'd rather shoot it at 1080p. But it was an advantage over the Mark III. And then you've got the dual pixel AF on the Mark IV, which is something that I'd be interested in. But when we compare the Mark III and the Mark IV side by side, I didn't think that there was enough gain. I don't think there was enough wins in there for me to upgrade from the Mark III to the Mark IV. So then I sort of put that to bed and said, well, I'm not going to upgrade because there's no point spending that money if I'm not going to get enough gains. I started wanting to shoot more video, and I started shooting video with my 5D Mark III, but with having to stabilise the footage with tripods and monopods. So it all comes down to how we shoot, how we like to work. And I wanted to shoot video and stills at the same time at weddings, but I didn't want to be bogged down. So my next step was I bought a Panasonic GH5 for the video side of things in my business, and for a while that worked well. Canon 5D Mark III to shoot stills, and I'd use the Panasonic GH5 to shoot video at weddings. Problem with that was I suddenly had to carry more equipment around. So it's difficult carrying it's one thing carrying 2 cameras, it's another thing carrying and using 3 cameras. It gets a little bit tricky. So I was on the right track. It was definitely The GH5 is fantastic for video with it, and with its 5-axis image stabilizing. I was definitely on the right track. But trying to shoot a wedding with 3 cameras it becomes quite tricky. So I found myself looking for a system that I could shoot high quality stills and video on, and it was all in one body. So I could go and shoot a wedding day, carry 1 or 2 bodies with me, and be able to do video and stills at a high level. So that's what I was looking for. So I wasn't prepared to upgrade to the Canon 5D Mark IV because it wasn't enough of an upgrade for me. So I did look at the Sony system. They did have good quality images and good quality video. So they didn't have the dual card slots and the battery life that I was looking for. So looking at the specs, so the Sony a7R3 is a 42 megapixel camera. It shoots at 10 frames per second, which is an extra 4 frames per second faster than the Mark III, Canon 5D Mark III. But also I don't need a fast frame rate. There's only be a certain few circumstances where I would need a fast frame rate, maybe the confetti shot or stuff like that. So then we come on to the video specs. So the a7R3 shoots 4K at 30 frames per second. That was certainly an upgrade for me. It shoots 1080 at 120 frames per second, so I'm able to shoot really nice cinematic slow motion, and that can be part of my videos too. The Sony shoots in S-Log2, so that's another great video making tool, so that was an advantage. The Sony has 5-axis stabilization in body, not on the lenses like the Canon, so be able to shoot video and stills handheld without tripods getting in the way or monopods on a wedding day was a massive plus for me. Sony also has a tilt and touch screen, which it's not an articulated screen, but it's still an advantage over the Canons, which is just a fixed screen. So now we're on to the battery life. The Canons always had good battery life, and Sony's never. So Sony have now introduced their battery, which has now made their cameras usable in the field. It's now made it possible that we don't have to carry lots of batteries. We only need a handful of batteries to do a full day shooting. And also they introduced the dual card slots, which was massive for me because, like I said in my other videos, I don't want to take the risk of not backing up my data when I'm recording a wedding. When I'm filming a wedding or taking stills at a wedding, I don't want to be in a situation where I can't back up my images and my footage on the go. As soon as Sony announced their new spec of dual card slots, better battery life, great video and great stills, it was just a no-brainer for me. I needed to buy this camera. They all do the same job. They all take pictures and they all video. As a photographer and as a filmmaker, it is important that everything makes our life easier. So what it comes down to is a bit of a no-brainer for me, and the Sony a7R3 was going to make my life easier. It means I don't have to shoot on a monopod, which does restrict you when you're trying to do video and stills. It means that I could push the boundaries of what I can capture on a wedding day, and it means that I could shoot stills and video without too much complication. So there you go guys, that's the reason why I moved from Canon over to the Sony system. And don't get me wrong, the Sony system is still not perfect. I'm not sure if there is a camera system or a camera out there that is absolute perfect for what I do. This Sony a7R3, it's pretty good. I know recently the Canon have announced that they are going to release a mirrorless camera. It's a little bit too late for me because I've already made the move over. I hope Canon do release something to rival the Sony systems, but what I will say is Sony are on their 3rd generation of cameras now. So we're on the A7 III, we're on the A7R3. The A7S III is soon to be released, so that'll probably be the next camera they release. So they've had 3 generations of testing and moving technology forward, so it'd be interesting to see what Canon do, and I hope they do bring something to the market, because it's really expensive to move systems because you have to buy new lenses. There's definitely disadvantages to moving systems. You've got to fork out more money. You've got to buy new lenses. You've got to buy new batteries. It's not to be done light-hearted. So thank you for watching, guys. That's me for today. So if you like this video, please hit the like button, and if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. There's plenty of more content coming your way. So I'll see you in the next video.